If you've seen the headlines recently, you might have noticed that protein is everywhere, and you might be wondering, am I getting enough? You might have also noticed Danone's Oikos yogurt brand recently entered the protein shake market. Just another example of the latest company jumping on this high protein bandwagon. This isn't just a fad, it is a seismic shift. More and more companies are tapping into our desire for quick, convenient ways to eat better and, in this case, boost our protein intake. But if you're a parent trying to balance work, after school chaos, toddler illness, you are probably left wondering what is happening. What nutrients am I supposed to be getting more or less of? And what this ends up doing is leaving you feel more confused than it does build your confidence. So I think the question we should be asking isn't just what's new and how can it help me get more protein? It's what's new and what's worth listening to. Hi there, Dr. Kiyah, nutrition expert, entrepreneur, speaker, and mom of 3. I help busy, health-conscious parents transform their family's relationship with food. So today, I want to help you cut through the noise and talk about what protein is, why we need it, how much we actually need, and give you some examples of protein-packed convenience foods that actually support your family's health. So let's start with why protein matters, beyond the headlines. Protein is one of 3 macronutrients, along with carbs and fat. It's made up of amino acids, which are the building blocks for everything from our muscles and bones to enzymes, hormones, and immune cells. Protein is essential for several things: muscle growth and repair, especially for active adults, active kids and active adults, and adults recovering from workout or injury. It's key for energy stability. Because protein takes longer to digest, it helps to regulate blood sugar and prevent those afternoon sugar crashes. And also for satiety, again, because it takes longer to digest, it helps keep you fuller longer. And it also is important for tissue repair. Kids need it to grow. Adults need it to recover, maintain muscle mass, especially as we age, and to stay full while we are racing from task to task. If you've been listening to me for a while, you know I have a hard time fitting in breakfast. But when I do, I try to make that meal have the primary macronutrient be protein. Think scrambled eggs, instead of what I'd really like to have, which is the cinnamon toast from my local bakery, because it helps me avoid those mid-morning crashes and I can stay full through lunch, until lunch, not through lunch. So how much do we actually need? It turns out it's not a simple answer. Unlike most things in nutrition, it kind of depends. Generally speaking, scientists and doctors agree that protein should account for 10 to 35% of your calories. So on a 2,000 calorie diet, that is 50 to 70 grams of protein. But once you're between the ages of 40 and 50, sarcopenia, or the loss of muscle mass, begins to set in. And so to prevent this and maintain both our independence and our quality of life, our protein needs actually increase to more like 1 to 1.2 grams of kilogram per body weight, or about 75 to 90 grams of protein for a 165-pound person. If you regularly exercise, you have higher needs, 1.1 to 1.5 grams. And people who weight train or are cycling or training excessively may need more than that. The challenge is that most of us either go big on protein at dinner or barely get any at breakfast and lunch. And that imbalance throughout the day does not set us up for success. So what does protein look like in real life when time is short and you're just trying to get everyone fed? Let's go back to that Oikos protein shake news for a second. So there's a reason these products are popping up everywhere. We're all looking for those easy grab and go options that help us feel like we're at least doing something right. And sometimes they are a good choice, but they're not the only choice, and they're not always the best value, either nutritionally or financially. So here are some less processed, protein-packed options that you can easily keep on hand. Greek yogurt or skyr, cottage cheese, which I personally love. I know a lot of people don't. Hard-boiled eggs. I cook a batch of these on the weekends and I keep them in the fridge. Edamame, roasted chickpeas, nut butters, which can go on all kinds of foods, including whole grain bread, tuna packets or salmon packets, rotisserie chicken. I cannot tell you how many things you can do with a rotisserie chicken. Wraps, quesadillas, or just eat it plain. And sure, something like a shelf-stable protein shake, but you really have to read the labels. More on that in a minute. When I am too tired to cook or I have simply run out of time and I'm at the store, I grab a rotisserie chicken, some veggies, and whole wheat tortillas, and everyone makes their own wraps. It's so simple and gives us the protein and veggies we need. Okay, so let's talk for a second about labels, because this is where I think a lot of people start to feel overwhelmed. There's so much information on a package, and not all of it is helpful. And not all of it helps you make a good decision. And here's why. First, front of pack or front of package marketing. It can be misleading. Words like high protein, natural, healthy, these are words that are not regulated in meaningful ways. The serving size can also be tricky. You know, that 12 grams of protein, well, that might actually be for half the bottle or half the package. And ingredient lists, it's easy to hide sugars, fillers, additives under names that many of us don't know to look for. Do you need to avoid those foods altogether? No, not necessarily. But I do think it's helpful to be informed so you can make an informed decision. So rather than getting stuck in the stress of a pack, here's a simple framework. Look at the protein. For snacks, aim for 10 grams or more, and for meals, try 15 to 25. Sugar, another important thing to look at, ideally keeping it 5 grams or less per serving. For most products, that can be difficult to do, 6 to 8 grams at the high end. And make sure you're watching out for yogurts that are labeled healthy. Even some of those have 15 or more grams of added sugar. Also look at fiber. More than 3 grams per serving is a really nice bonus because protein and fiber together equal longer lasting energy. And then, of course, look at the ingredient list. I really advocate for this. For me personally, I try to choose those items that have a shorter list. And I tend to opt for products that have more natural sugars in them and might have a higher total sugar content than those that are filled with artificial sugars and have a lower sugar content. So, I try to work out between work and going home, but that doesn't always happen. And sometimes I have to do it during lunch. And I used to rely on Cliff protein builder bars if I was trying to get a little bit of extra protein. But recently I've switched to RX bars. They're higher in fiber, they're a little bit lower in calories and a little bit lower in protein, but the sugars in them are coming from dates, whole fruit, instead of cane sugar and brown rice syrup. Look, not every meal is going to be picture perfect. I don't mean to suggest that. Life is chaotic, and that happens without warning. Someone's sick, practice is running late, your meeting is postponed, you forget to defrost part of dinner, and suddenly you're left standing in the kitchen and you're just wanting to hand out bowls of cereal and call it a day. This is where a little bit of planning makes a huge difference. If you can stock just a few high-protein staples, eggs, yogurt, beans, pre-cooked chicken, then your hair on fire, I'm scrambling for dinner nights can still fuel you and your family. So here are some actual meals you can pull together in 10 to 15 minutes. I rely on these often. Scrambled eggs with frozen spinach and toast, tuna salad wraps with carrot sticks, quesadillas, refried beans, cheese, salsa. Mini snack trays, think hummus, pita, veggies, boiled eggs, nuts. These are not fancy, but they are easy and they can easily be stocked, and they work to balance those big macronutrient groups. They also keep you from defaulting to drive-thrus or dry cereal just because the day got away from you. Not that you can't use those, of course. So here are my key takeaways today. Protein is important, but it shouldn't be your sole focus when you're making food choices. Protein-added convenience foods are often highly processed, and there are easy ways to get added protein using whole foods. Getting enough protein does not have to be complicated. You don't have to track your macros or buy the trendiest shake on the shelf. What you do need to know is what you're looking for and what your food goals are, so that even when things get chaotic, because they will, you're not stuck without options. Instead, you're stocked and you know how to be flexible, and you can feed your family in a way that feels good and is realistic for you. If this helped shift your thinking about convenience foods or protein or what's actually worth keeping on hand, let me know. Drop a comment, tag a friend, or share your favorite protein-packed staple. I would love to hear about it. I am always looking for new ideas, and I know other parents are too. Thanks for watching. See you next time.